105.3 The Fan and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network present
Touchdown Cowboys!
Dallas Cowboys Football 2025 in crystal clear HD stereo. Today's pregame show is brought to you by
Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com. Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's original craft vodka. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
And just like that, we're 3 hours to kickoff here at AT&T Stadium with the Giants in town. Regular season game number 1,000 for your Dallas Cowboys.
How about that?
Welcome into the official pregame show of America's team. The gates have opened here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Cowboys fans infiltrating, ready to party for the next few hours, prepping the body for kickoff. The first shoddy home game of his tenure. And Broaddus, I got to say, I'm excited, brother.
Well, I'll tell you what, Eric, excited to be with you here for another season of this from AT&T. All right, you know me, I've got to ask you, what's the theme of this game for you going in?
Theme of the game, so here's the deal. This is a noon home game with the Cowboys as a pretty significant favorite, right?
Sure. 5.5, right?
I've seen it at 6. They are definitely favored in a pretty substantial way to win this football game. Tolo's storming in now. It's a beautiful thing to see. And we've seen over the course of the McCarthy tenure, just a sleepwalking noon home game, especially when they're a favorite.
Yep.
Last week, I loved that Shoddy had the guys absolutely ready to play, especially offensively. The defense started to get going, obviously, as the game went on. But offensively, Shoddy had the guys ready to rock and roll. First game on the road, Philadelphia. It's banner night there. Of course they're ready. Let's make sure that they're not smelling themselves a little bit too much after whatever kind of a moral victory. And, hey, I'll raise my hand. I was very encouraged with that loss last week. And if this was later in the season and the Cowboys were rolling and the Giants were as bad as they looked last week, I'd say this is a take out the trash game. But we don't even have a mark in the win column yet. So simply, Broaddus, I want it to be pretty, but it doesn't have to be. This is just a handle business game, my friend.
Handle business game. All right.
Just handle business today. Get it done. Get that first win under your belt. And then we can start thinking about style points maybe a little bit later on in the season. You have the Bears coming up, and then, of course, you'll have the Packers here at AT&T Stadium next. But it's all about the Giants right now. Russell Wilson, Brian Dable, maybe we see a little Jackson Dart. We'll see how this thing shakes out. But
yeah, I think, honestly, I think you're going to see Jackson Dart today. I do. I feel like I like what you're saying about the theme of the game. I do feel like this is a game that Dallas showed against Philadelphia its ability to come out, as we always like to talk about, the first 15. I thought for a half of football that Brian Schottenheimer play calling was outstanding, and the execution outstanding. I think they're very capable against a Giant defense that's going to struggle a little bit in the secondary here. Their pass rush is what they hang their hat on, but I kind of feel like that Dallas is going to find a way to get some stuff done in the first half of this game, and maybe the Giants don't get things going in their end of it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe Brian Daboll says, listen, I can't sit here and watch us just continually waste opportunities. And I would not be one bit surprised if we see Jackson Dart in this game. And I think Jackson Dart might be the guy to kind of bring them back. And then we'll see Jackson Dart the rest of the way.
Bring a little juice for him, huh?
Yeah, I think that the Giants are clearly they're looking for something. The quarterback play has been it's kind of funny how they have guys here with them, and then they goes on it goes on to other places and plays at a very, very high level. But yeah, the Giants are just they're in a situation where the head coach, the general manager, John Mara has the ownership group, him and the Tesh family. They've come out and they've said, listen, we can't get in this mode of just continually going through coaches every 2 years. They were in a really bad cycle there where it just seemed like the Joe Judges of the world and the Pat Shurmurs of the world and all that they were doing those kinds of things. So, here they are. They sit with Brian Daboll here, but he realizes he's got to do something. He's got to show ownership. They've got a difficult schedule coming up too.
Oh, they got the hardest schedule in the league.
They got a very difficult schedule. So I just would not be one bit surprised at all if, in fact, that they maybe Cowboys get a nice little lead, and then it turns into, okay, here we go, and then it turns into a different ball game.
Now, we're already back here at AT&T Stadium with some of our favorite observations, which is always acknowledging and pointing out the individuals that are repping a team that has nothing to do with the game. We saw the Dan Marino jersey.
Saw the Dan Marino jersey, right.
We just saw a wonderful Cowboys fan, Tolo, whose wife is decked out in Commander's gear.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really understand the thought process, but we are like 5 minutes into the program, and we've already seen two. So we will continue to
with the Giants in town, I guarantee you'll see a Jets jersey today. I
kind of like that.
You'll see a Sauce Gardner jersey today here on the Plaza.
Okay, he's putting in the call. Bryan Broaddus, the Super Bowl champion. We're live here in the Miller Lite West Plaza. Shout out to the 214. Dove hunting, listening to the pregame show.
Dove hunting. Walking the fields?
Yeah.
We're walking the fields here?
He says he's about to have some Dove poppers freshen on the smoker.
Okay, so we've already had the Dove hunt is what we've done. So now we've cleaned them, and then we've added the jalapenos and probably wrapped those bad boys in some bacon. So that'll be quite tasty.
That's the early leader for Meat Church menu of the day here.
Yes.
On the Cowboys pregame show, 877-881-1053. What's your confidence meter? Now, I do want to just mention, because it's been a heck of a week. I mean, you just saw Tyler Smith get the fatty boom by, now the highest paid guard in NFL history. You had the Clowney stuff that went down this week, and then the Deron Bland injury. Which one of those is most pertinent to you right now?
I think, to me, let's talk about the Tyler Smith signing, because now it's turned into the Cowboys. All of a sudden we were a little bit worried as a fan base that they were going to take all that money and they just kind of put it away or something. But, now you're starting to see, even Hunter Lipke getting an opportunity, getting a contract extension. So they talked about, going out and doing some things, getting Tyler Smith locked up for the number of years that they did. I think it was a really, really good thing for this organization. This offensive line today will be a big part. They're going to have to handle some things inside, with this Giant. When you talk about Dexter Lawrence, you're going to see today Tyler Smith is probably going to be worth every penny that he's going to make going forward.
No doubt. Last week you had the fortunate situation with the Jalen Carter stuff. Probably not going to unfold the same way with Dexter Lawrence today, who is unequivocally one of the very best interior defensive linemen in the sport. And so Tyler Booker, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Smith, all will have their hands full and will earn their money today versus him. Plus, just in general, the pass rush for the Giants, which coming into the season was supposed to be one of the most vaunted pass rushes in the NFL. They draft Abdul Carter, of course, high in the draft out of Penn State. And then they have Kayvon Thibodeau. They got Brian Burns. I mean, they have a litany of guys there when it comes to that pass rush. So, and it didn't really come to fruition during the Commanders game last week. But I wonder how much of that has to do with Jaden Daniels and his ability to run around and make something happen with his legs in a way that Dak Prescott can't really do these days. So it'll be a nice test for the Cowboys offensive line, especially when it comes to the pass rush. But my goodness, you mentioned Dak Prescott.
Right.
How nasty was he last week?
Yeah, he played very, very well, and it was good to see that. And there was
awesome.
There was a lot of questions. We had seen him in training camp, and he'd had some moments where he looked really, really good in training camp, and then other moments where, whoa, where's that interception from?
Sure.
And maybe that's a little bit credit to what Matt Eberflus and those guys were doing at practice and in Elam and guys like that. But he came out in the Philadelphia game. He was outstanding. He lost some air yards along the way with some of the drops. That was unfortunate for him. But, for not having, for being off so long because of the injury, rehabbing the injury, and then really no preseason games. And I know I was one of those guys like, hey, listen, be nice if he played one of these preseason games. It'd be nice. Well, if he comes out and makes plays like that, and he doesn't need any type of preseason games if that's the case. But today, a little bit different challenge with the pass rush with the Giants. It's going to be really about how these tackles hold up for the Cowboys. How will Steele play? How will Guyton play? Guyton did a pretty nice job last week. Gave some pressures up, but that's going to happen. You're blocking 65 plays. You're probably going to give up a couple of pressures along the way. Pretty good for him as well, not having a lot of time in training camp. There were some questions about him or Nate Thomas starting at left tackle, but man, everything kind of did everything helped their ability to run that ball in the game early
Yes.
with Williams and the way they were able to block, and Sanders with the long run. Unfortunately, they had the fumble there. But, that's something that they're going to have. We always talk about balance. We roll our eyes when coaches say, oh, we have to have balance. We have to have balance. Well, in that case for Dak Prescott, balance really does help him. It opens up a lot of other things for him to be able to manipulate offense.
No question. He had the highest aggressive throw rate per next-gen stats last week. He was fourth among all passers in big-time throws, BTTs, baby. He was not sacked. And then he also had the highest drop rate at about 12%.
Yeah,
we're not going
to
see that again from old CeeDee
No,
Lamb.
and it really wasn't just CeeDee Lamb. Unfortunately, our buddy Jake Ferguson.
No doubt.
Man, I mean, you could go back and watch the tape, whether you get it on NFL.com or however you get your tape, and you could slow that thing down to the end zone copy and see the ball was right on Jake Ferguson's hands in the end zone. Catch the ball, protect yourself. You're probably going to get whacked. But, that's a touchdown right there. So, unfortunately, though, he did. He had some drops along the way that hurt his numbers and ultimately, though, hurt the team. They needed those yards. They needed those points. And, if they're going to be the type of team they want to be, they're going to have to – their big-time players are going to have to come up with some big-time plays. And unfortunately, they didn't in that game.
Okay, so Deron Bland gets banged up in practice. He's going to miss the next couple, 2-3 games, dealing with a foot issue. Not the same foot that he had surgery on last year, which is good news. But they're not going to have him today. We know that. What do you think the plan is slowing down a guy like Malik Neighbors?
Yeah, this is going to be – it's just not really about Malik Neighbors. I think the one thing that slows Malik Neighbors down and Wan'Dale Robinson and these receivers for the Giants is their quarterback play. They're just with Russell Wilson. We'll see. We'll see with no Bland. And after watching the Eagles with Dotson attack Elam on the vertical ball, will the Giants try a vertical game? Can the Giants even attempt a vertical game if their offensive line can't hold up? We might see some max protection stuff, keeping backs in, keeping tight ends in, and taking those shots down the field. But if you're not willing to throw the ball down the field, and that's why I think Jackson Dart's going to be in this game. I just feel like that the Giants' offense is going to go stagnant because the ball is going sideways and it's not going down the field. It's not attacking the middle of the field. And these are all things that Malik Neighbors is really, really good at. You get him the ball in hand, on the move. He is a tough guy to get to the ground. And so, to me, I just feel like, though, how you play him. Now, how much zone coverage are you willing to play in this game? Cowboys extensively played zone coverage last week, against Jalen Hurts because they realized that Jalen Hurts having to read the field was going to be a problem.
Friendly reminder, the creators of Buffalo bring you NFL casino games. Kick off with America's team on and off the reels with Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Do you have a gambling problem? Please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. All right, we're just getting started here on the official pregame show of America's team. Under 3 hours to kick off now at AT&T Stadium. Let's get our player profile with George Pickens, and we will welcome in behind enemy lines the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa. That's next right here on The Fan.
Football season is here, but it's still...
All right, we're 2 hours and 40 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium. Great to have you in the official pregame show of your Dallas Cowboys. We will go behind enemy lines with the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, here in just a few minutes. But right now it's time for today's player profile. It's George Pickens standing by with Chris Arnold, the three-time Hall of Famer. Here it is.
GP George Pickens, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man.
This will be your first game at AT&T Stadium in the Cowboys uniform. You looking forward to this?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward for a victory.
I know that's right. It's the Giants, and ironically, the Cowboys done beat the Giants 8 times in a row, which is the longest streak in the NFL against one team right now. I know y'all want to try to keep that going. Give me a quick scouting report on the Giants defense, which y'all going to have to look out for.
Definitely they ends. Definitely the people they picked up in the draft, they picked up another end. So you kind of see where they want to put their money. So definitely defense and D-line, yeah.
Giants are going to be hungry too. Y'all hungry. Neither one of y'all had a win this first weekend. You got to play with Russ last year. Russell Wilson, can you talk about some of the things Cowboys defense got to watch out for him?
Just really definitely the deep ball, taking shots. Somebody who likes to take the shots, and then intermediate passing for sure.
George, you and CD been knowing each other how long?
For at least about a year and a half.
Hit it off real well. Can you talk about that chemistry and how it kind of helps the Cowboys passing attack?
Definitely a brotherhood. We always want to have a brotherhood in the whole locker room, but me and CD, when you have a brotherhood at the same position, you can definitely thrive and make the offense better.
With that in mind, it's a noon game. Do you have any kind of pregame ritual that you do, like on an early game like that? Is there anything you get to the stadium early at the same time, try to get to sleep early, get some breakfast? What is it?
A little bit earlier to the stadium, get in the hot tub, warm my body up way earlier, but way hours before we go out, and then probably get, like you said, get some food, and then fuel up, hydration into the game.
Right. Can you talk about the chemistry of you and CD, and it helps with Dak? Because Dak, he knows where you guys are going to be. Yeah. You guys kind of guys that in traffic, you're going to fight for the ball.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Me and CD brotherhood can make the offense way better, let alone with Dak. Always coming to us on little routes like space and alignment. We all talk together, so it definitely make us better.
And finally, when you get ready to go to the stadium or you're out there on the field, any kind of music you listen to, anything to get your mind right, or you don't listen to any music at all?
Yeah, right now, Young Boy is definitely a go-to. Definitely right now.
He just left town, but he coming back in October.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
NFL Young Boy, talking about NBA Young Boy, George Pickens. Appreciate you, man. Good luck this afternoon.
I appreciate you, man.
All right, thank you, Chris Arnold. Thank you, George Pickens. Broaddus, what would you like to see from Pickens today? Does he need to become a little bit more of a focal point of the offense?
Yeah, absolutely. This needs to be the focal point of, to me, they lost opportunity with him last week. The targets to Lamb are good. More targets, though, to Pickens, though. Kind of get him going, get him into a little rhythm. I think really all these guys, it seemed like it was very much CD-driven the other day, where Pickens – there were times where Pickens was open, needed to get the football, but good opportunity. If Cowboys pass rush, or excuse me, the Cowboys offensive line can hold up against this Giants pass rush, maybe some opportunities for George to get some balls his way today. I think he needs some more of them.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how the Giants approach it. Last week, their number one corner, Paulson Adebo, guy they picked up in free agency this offseason. Yeah, he traveled with McLaurin, really shut him down. But when you have weapons like the Cowboys do, where you have Lamb and Pickens, I don't know if that's going to be the same type of strategy. I don't think the Commanders had other receivers. I know Deebo Samuel's solid, but different type of player. George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb's a different beast.
If you look at how the Cowboys' targets went, though, you would travel in with Lamb, is what you would do.
Sure.
Until proven different, you feel like the Giants have to determine Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, just has to determine which one of the weapons that he wants to try and take out of this game if he can initially. And so if you just look at targets, you would say that Lamb is the primary receiver in this offense.
Yeah, and I would say, one of the challenging things about trying to travel a corner with Lamb is how he plays in the slot as well.
That's right.
And being able to be a corner that can have that flex of being able to play on the boundary and in the slot. I don't know that Adebo is necessarily that guy.
No, I don't know if you go in the slot. Drew Phillips is their slot corner. So how you can find ways. See, they were telling us, Shotty was telling us last week, he's like, hey, listen, well, there's some cloud coverage. It took, if you're getting cloud coverage, find a way to move him around. Find a way to, you can motion him across, try and keep him away from the safety sitting there too deep. and being able to bracket him and cover him. So move those guys around. That's your responsibility as a play caller and the head coach, is to find ways to put your guys in position to make plays. I thought for a half he did that. But then, after the weather delay, things kind of got a little stagnant when it came to their movement. It was just Turpin that was on the move, and Turpin wasn't going to be – Turpin was just the threat of the jet sweeps and handoffs and stuff like that. If you're not going to throw him the ball, that motion's not going to do anything to him.
Right. And I do love what they're doing with Turpin, but you would like to see some other guys get
Absolutely.
in that motion.
This is – don't just, if you're worried about how they're playing you on the outside, move your guys, bunch them up, move them around, and just kind of find a path. And then also, too, going out and finding who that secondary guy is. Who is that guy that is struggling with coverage? Who is it? Debo, he's a good cover guy. But Flott on the other side has had his struggles. The Cowboys have had some success against him. I am going to wear out whoever you have in that secondary until you figure out either get him off the field or if they try and help him, then you start to make other plans to go other ways. The Giants, the Giants are like any other team in the National Football League. They don't have 11 guys that are all great players. You've got to find the guy that is going to struggle in coverage or struggle playing the run when it comes to running the ball at somebody that doesn't handle blocks well, things like that. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, and Adebo is clearly their best corner. Everybody else in that secondary, you feel like could be had?
I think there's going to be some throws. If you can protect your front, there's some throws that you can absolutely be made.
All right, fantastic. It's time now to go behind enemy lines with the voice of the New York Giants, one of our favorites, Bob Papa.
Locke takes the snap, rolls right, hits Neighbor, runs out of a tackle. He's at midfield, down the right sideline to the 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. Malik Neighbors, 59 yards. And today has truly been a beautiful day in Malik's neighborhood. His second touchdown of the ball game, and the Giants widen their lead with 8:39 to go.
Bob, happy Sunday, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. That was the longest pass play of the year for the Giants last year. Big plays and the Giants are not synonymous. And that happened last week in Washington.
No question. Now, what's this week like? What's it been like in Giants land after a loss like that? We're hearing all the Jackson Dart conversation. Malik Neighbors maybe a little bit frustrated. What's the vibe right now around this football team?
I think a little bit of that's overblown. I mean, having done this for a long time, like week 1 to week 2, you're going to, it's the National Fake You Out League. Like, there's teams that look really good in week 1 and look lousy in week 2 and vice versa. I think they remain pretty confident. I mean, obviously they're playing a team that has owned them. Dallas has won 17 of the last 18 meetings. Giants haven't won here in Dallas since 2016. So they know that they've got a battle going uphill, but I think they're confident going into this game that last week was last week and that they can get things turned around.
Hey, Bob, with Andrew Thomas practiced a little more this week. Any updates? I know it's a kind of a situation where maybe a doubtful, but game time. Where do they fall with maybe his availability day for you?
Well, I think if you just use a little logic, right, and people have been asking me this, if a guy really can't go every day and you're managing his return from a very severe foot injury,
right.
You got to think, how's he going to play in a game if you got to give him a day off in between practices? So I think he's probably not going to play in this football game. I think they want to be really careful with him because of the severity of the Lisfranc injury that he had and the surgery and everything else. So I think they're kind of just, we don't want to rush him back and then lose him because we need him. So I think they're going to wait until he's a full go, and I would highly doubt that he plays today.
Bob, the situation with the head coach and then also the general manager, it must be just so difficult for them to manage how they're going to maybe think about even looking at Jackson Dart, and where do you kind of fall on that whole call?
Well, I mean, I was here when they had Kurt Warner and they drafted Eli Manning, and they waited until game number 10 to make a move. They were actually 5-4 and still in the playoff hunt when they made the switch. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later if the team doesn't play better. Because why would you not let him get playing experience? And this whole notion of, well, you could ruin the kid.
Right.
You know what I'd say to that? That means that the kid is not the answer in the first place.
Absolutely.
Troy Aikman went 1-15 and got absolutely blasted.
Right.
And Peyton Manning was awful and got blasted his rookie year. Did it ruin them? No. I mean, either you got it or you don't have it. And I think at some point in time they will get Jackson Dart on the field to play.
Voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, with us here on The Fan. They keep hinting about like a Jackson Dart package of sorts that they could just kind of sprinkle into the game plan. What do you think that looks like?
I wouldn't be shocked about that. I wouldn't be shocked if we see some packages, if not this week, maybe next week with Jackson Dart. Look, he's very athletic. He's a lot better athletically than I think people gave him credit for coming out of the draft. I could see certain situations where they kind of put him in the game and maybe it's a little RPO or something like that where they'll use him and they can use his legs. But I don't think it's going to be a heavy diet of him. But I wouldn't be shocked if, boom, sudden change, he comes in the game and then he comes right back out. It's not going to be it's not going to be, Roger Staubach and Craig Morton going in and out every series.
Every series, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a little package for him.
Hey, Bob, just kind of studying your guys' tape, the Micah McFadden injury, that's pretty significant for this defense. I like the way that way the young man played for you guys.
Major blow. He is a really good player. In fact, you could make the case that he's the best player to come out of their 2022 draft.
Sure.
And as far as having the most impact, and he was a fifth-round pick, really had grown into the job, was just a good, smart football player. And not having him, and you saw what happened last week. The minute he went out of the game,
sure,
at like the 7-yard line, they shifted Ertz over. Muasau, a second-year backer, came in, wasn't as sure of his assignment or what he was kind of, what is necessarily his responsibility. Boom, they run a little whip route, easy touchdown for Zach Ertz.
So what's the plan there? I was reading about some potential Abdul Carter off-ball linebacker stuff to try and mitigate the loss of McFadden. Is that something you think they're working through?
If you take a player third overall in the draft and everybody says, outside of the building, before the Giants ever drafted him, that he is one of the best football players in this draft class, I think you got to put him in. Look, you guys know down here, Micah Parsons, can I say his name here in Dallas? Is it okay?
You're more welcome to. You've been on our broadcast a lot.
I mean, Micah Parsons, was he just an outside backer or an edge rusher?
Right.
Micah Parsons was used everywhere, and Abdul Carter has a lot of similar skill sets. Why would you not put him out there? I mean, I would rather take my chances with Jalen Carter in that spot than a Darius Muasau or someone signed off the practice squad, because that kid showed a lot last week in his snaps and what he did on special teams. And people say, well, you're asking a lot to have him on special teams. Dude, Lawrence Taylor played special teams for most of his career, and Carl Banks, who won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, he was on specials right until his last year of his career. So don't give me this too many snaps if you got to use them on specials.
Bob, the secondary for the Giants, where are you at as far as how that, it seemed like to me that there was some traveling last week. I don't know if we'll see some traveling this week, but the state of the Giants secondary coming into this one.
Yeah, Paulson Adebo, who they signed from the Saints, he spent a lot of time dealing with Terry McLaurin last week. And, of course, Deebo Samuel had a nice game against the Giants. I don't know how much they'll travel because of the what Pickens brings to the table as far as his physicality is concerned. And then, CD out of the slot, that's where Drew Phillips, the second-year, nickelback, is going to come into play. But look, they got their hands full, right? You got 3 first-round draft picks on that offensive line. It's a very good offensive line. And you got a quarterback that has won 13 straight against you. And Dak plays, what is he, 5-0 when he's thrown over for over 300 yards against the Giants? So they have their hands full as far as what they're going to do. And if they allow the Dallas Cowboys to run the football like the Commanders ran the football, because if you take the Jaden Daniels yardage out from last week, the running backs for Washington had 133 yards rushing. You allow that to happen, you're toast on the back end.
Voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, with us here on The Fan. I'm curious about the rookie Cam Scadaboo. I mean, does he have any care at all for his own short-term and long-term physical health? I mean, this dude just plays like a battering ram.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think if you ask Cam, he would tell you he didn't care. I mean, he really is. Now, he's a different kind of character. I had a chance to do an event with him right after the draft, and he marches to a very unique beat. Let's just put it that way. I think they need to use him more. He's got more speed than I think people think. I think people look at him and they see, like, his body type and everything else, but when he gets out in space, he's a lot faster. And sometimes I think it would behoove him to not seek contact, where, like, you're looking for contact to set a tone, but you actually had a lane to your left or your right where you could have maybe turned it into a bigger run. But listen, it's his second game. I would expect to see him a little bit more today.
Bob, the Cowboys, I think, the Cowboys have worked on the interior of their offensive line because of guys like Dexter Lawrence. And what always amazes me about Dexter Lawrence is how close he could play to the line of scrimmage and just completely neutralize any blocking that you have for him, any scheme that you have. Has he was dealing with is he dealing with a little bit of an elbow problem? It's kind of slowed him up, but still just this tremendous player.
Yeah, I mean, he and Bobby Carriquet got lost for the season right here on Thanksgiving Day when they collided on a play against the Cowboys, and they were out for the rest of the year. I think I think Dexter's got to pick it up. I think if you ask Dexter, he didn't play his best game last week. It was pretty hot, one of those 1 o'clock games.
Sure.
I thought some of the guys wore down a little bit. I would expect them to be better. They believe that adding Chauncey Golston and adding Roy Robertson-Harris give them an opportunity to sort of spell Dexter a little bit and create a little bit more of a rotation. But they're going to need Roy Robertson-Harris to play better than he did last week, and Dexter has to be a little bit more of a wrecking crew than he was last week.
Bob, I think you guys have the best personality in all of football on that Giants roster. Jameis Winston, how fun is it covering a guy like that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's great for the Giants' social media department, and he's great for the Eli Manning show because he did a spot on that, and he's great for all that stuff, and he keeps it loose. And that's all well and good, and that's fun. But if you're not winning, it suddenly doesn't really become that much fun. And at the end of the day, you want to see Russell Wilson play well. You want to see this team competitive, have chances to win games. Now, if they do or they don't, then you can point to, hey, we have a deficiency at corner, or we have a deficiency here. It's the performances that they had last week that create the turmoil, because Carl Banks and I were talking about it at the end of the game, and I said, Carl said, this has to be very triggering for Giants fans, which I thought was a very interesting word. And I kind of finished it off with, it felt like the 18th game of 2024. And that can't happen today. Whether they win or they lose, they need to play better to give this fan base at least some hope moving into Kansas City and the Chargers coming to town for the first 2 home games of the year.
Hey, Bob, one final thing. I know you're a golf expert. Give me your prediction for the Ryder Cup.
Well, that's a really good question. I think this European team is maybe the strongest European team that we've seen. I like what Keegan Bradley's done. It's going to be interesting. Cam Young, it's kind of a home game for him.
Sure.
How does he handle it mentally? Because one of the things that kept him from winning for so many years, because he's uber talented, was sometimes his head would get in its own way. He'd get in his own way. how does he manage some of that stuff? I think Patrick Cantlay, who's not a likable figure externally, like people look at Cantlay and it's like, man, this guy's like a robot. But he's very well liked, amongst his peers. And I think that's a good thing. And he was as tough as nails in the last Ryder Cup in Italy. And then, you had Bryson DeChambeau to this mix, and that guy's really well liked. I know Koepka's not a big fan of his, but Koepka's not on the team. But Bryson brings a real energy, and all the things he's done behind the scenes, being on LIV, not being able to be at tour events, but he has really done it. He, as Keegan said, he's gone above and beyond being a good teammate when he's not able to participate in some of the things that they have going on.
Bob, you're the man. We appreciate the time, bro, and enjoy the game.
All right, let's go USA.
Yes, sir. Let's go USA. There he is, voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, with us here on The Fan. Now let's turn our attention to the man who will be on the call for Fox today alongside Greg Olson. Joe Davis joins us next here on The Fan.
Veritiv Pollock is more than just a supplier. We're your strategic ally in facility, packaging, and retail solutions. From industrial warehouses to office buildings, schools, and retail operations, we help you lower costs, increase efficiency, and stay stocked with the products that keep your business moving forward. With over 100 years of experience, national distribution.
play-by-play voice of the Dodgers and, of course, NFL and MLB on Fox, on the call for today's Cowboys-Giants game. He's Joe Davis, ladies and gentlemen, joining us right now on 105.3 The Fan. Joe, happy Sunday, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're wonderful, dude. Wonderful. Fired up for today's game, man. The Cowboys looked pretty good last week, and I still can't get over how awesome Dak Prescott looked.
Oh my gosh, you ain't kidding, guys. You see the numbers, and I didn't watch the game live, so I'm seeing the numbers. I'm reading some of the clips, and then I went back and watched, and it was like, holy cow! You get rid of a few of the drops, and the numbers are going to line up, that's as good of a game as you can play as a quarterback. So I'm with you. If you can ever come out of a loss feeling great, I think Dallas has a lot of reasons to.
Hey, Joe, were you surprised with Dallas' somewhat ability to run the football? A lot of it was made coming into the season about what the running back situation was going to be. Could the offensive line, were you surprised that they were able to find a little traction against the Eagles?
I think the Jalen Carter thing certainly helped. I think that's still a really good defensive line, even without Carter. Javonte Williams, it's a pretty good first impression he made. You know, we heard a lot through camp that this guy's impressed him with his toughness and his attitude and his running style. To see him go out there and really set the tone early in the game, I don't know that I would say I was surprised, just given everything we heard from Brian Schottenheimer and the Cowboys about wanting to establish that run. So I don't know if surprise would be the word, but definitely impressed with the way they started out on the ground.
Joe Davis with us here on The Fan. So obviously in lead up to the game, you guys get an opportunity to chat it up with Shotty, probably Dak as well. And this is Shotty's first home game as the Cowboys head coach. What did you learn from him?
Yeah, everything you read, the relentless positivity, it spilled out of him still. And again, I think it's easy to do because they played pretty well in a loss, but I just really enjoyed it and had met him before, but first time really talking to him in depth like that. Just really enjoyed some of the things you read about and hear about in terms of the personality, getting to feel that myself. So you can see why he's getting such high grades from the guys that are in the building so far.
Hey, Joe, you talk about where are you at the state with, though? We talked about the Cowboys a little bit. What's the state of the Giants, though? How do you feel coming into this game? And they've got a difficult schedule. A lot of teams have difficult schedules, but where are the state of the Giants in your mind right now?
It's funny. It's like these teams can't have the same record, can they? Given the mood and the tone around each. But, sure. Yeah, you got an 0-1 Cowboys team where it's like, man, they were impressive as heck. But then an 0-1 Giants team where it looked exactly like it looked last year. And, there was optimism coming into the year, but as bad as they looked last week, it's like, geez, this is exactly like it looked last year and the year before. And so a lot of that optimism, I think, fizzled.
Joe, did you get a feel for the mood around Russell Wilson, the leash that they're going to have on him, and maybe trying to get Dart into one of these games sooner rather than later?
Yeah, we tried to get a feel, but it's kind of more of the same, and I think that's crazy, right? It's like the problem all these years was Daniel Jones. Well, the one change you make was to get rid of Daniel Jones and bring in Russell Wilson, and it looked exactly the same. The thing with, is Jackson Dart going to fix it? Is he going to improve it? Yeah, it's hard to think that it wouldn't improve it based on how that looked last week. But when do you decide to pull that trigger? The schedule, as you guys said, is really tough. I don't know if I want that kid making his first career start in a Giants-Cowboys game in Dallas. I don't know if I want to make it the next 2 weeks either. They got Kansas City, and then they've got the Chargers. So it's a really hard line to walk if you're Brian Dable, where it's like, you got to get this team going. Selfishly for him, probably coaching for his job, but at the same time, is it damning to throw him in right now? Are you gonna really stunt his development by doing that? So that's not an easy decision to make, but it's one that's going to define this early part of the season and probably define his time coaching the Giants.
Joe, with you follow the Cowboys, you watch the Cowboys play, and offensively, you saw the things, went back and watched them against the Eagles. I kind of felt like that maybe George Pickens was going to be a little bit more involved in that game against the Eagles. Do you kind of feel like they need to get him going in this particular game?
Yeah, I think, 3 catches that first game, and not necessarily what you envisioned when they went out and got him, where you're thinking, wow, this is going to be the top duo that you're going to have in the NFL here with Lamb and Pickens. But, yeah, I think one game, and I think if we get a few weeks into this and you're still seeing that, then there's something to it. But I think you can chalk it up to, hey, maybe this is just how that game went. And in talking with the Cowboys, I don't sense that there's too much concern in how that went. You go another few weeks and he's not getting targeted more, maybe there's something to it. But let's see today.
Fox Sports' Joe Davis with us here on The Fan. Joe, I mean, I imagine this is one of the more hectic times of your calendar, juggling all the Dodgers stuff, MLB on Fox, and then, of course, doing the NFL stuff. I mean, just how slammed are you these days?
Yeah, it's like, October is the big month with the World Series and the postseason run, but I have the guardrails of focusing on one thing then. Right now, you're right, it's crazy. You're with the Dodgers and the Fox MLB and the Fox NFL stuff. I don't even know what city I'm in. I got to go check. It's funny. I'll walk up the hotel front desk and be like, I'm sorry. I know I checked in already, but can you tell me what room I'm in? I don't even know what room I'm in. So, yeah, that time of year, but it's the best, man. This is what I always dreamt of. I'm so lucky.
Well, that's what you get for being so damn good at your job.
Seriously, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that so much. It's what I dreamt of doing, and to get to do it, and then to get to do it with the people that I get to do it with. Like, Greg Olsen is not just the best in the business at what he does. It's like hanging out with one of my best buddies each weekend. So I'm so blessed.
I wanted to ask you about that, Joe. I mean, you get the ultimate education being around Greg Olsen all week.
Yeah.
And that has to be your football smarts has to just be through the roof now of stuff you just pick up in conversation with him, not even on air.
You nailed it. I tell people all the time. I've learned more from Greg, and I'm the son of a Hall of Fame high school coach in Michigan. So I grew up around the game. I learned more from Greg about football than anybody I've ever been around. I've been around smart football people my whole life. Every single week, it's like he steps back from all the football cliches that we've always talked, all of us, and he just looks at things from a different framing and a different angle. And, you can talk the game from every angle, and it's just it's amazing. Every week, the chance to sit there and learn from him.
How crazy what our Texas Rangers are trying to pull off right now, huh?
How about that? I've been saying all year, like, hey, they're coming. And then I started saying that a little more quietly because I'm like, maybe they're and then I look up, and it's like they got all their dudes that you expected would be the reason that they were coming out, and a bunch of guys I never heard of that are hitting, and suddenly here they come. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to have to study the Rangers again. Maybe after all, here they come.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff right now. Joe, it's a real treat to have you on the show today, and it's a treat to have you on the Cowboys game today as well. We really appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the game.
Enjoyed talking to you guys. Thank you. You guys too.
Thank you. There he goes, Fox Sports' Joe Davis on today's TV call with Greg Olsen and Pam Oliver. Whether you're a backyard griller, Cowboys tailgater, or a Pitmaster Pro, Meat Church has everything you need. Visit meatchurch.com, your ultimate destination for the finest rubs, seasonings, and barbecue supplies. Matt Pittman and Meat Church, the official Pitmaster of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and shout out to Matt Pittman, who's actually listening to the broadcast today. So
how about it?
Thank you, Matt, for being part of what we do every day around here.
Yeah, he's the best in the business. This is probably a good opportunity to tee up the Meat Church menu of the day.
Yeah, I think we need to get into that.
877-881-1053. What you cooking up for a noon kickoff here at AT&T Stadium? Cowboys and Giants. We are now just over 2 hours to kick off. Let's go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. That's next right here on The Fan.
How's it going? You see that Cowboys game?
Oh, I watched. Been seeing some good things.
Totally. They have some talent.
Yup, some great talent.
And they got some fight.
Hoping this is the year.
Me too. Oh, I'm Cody, by the way.
I'm Travis.
Nice to meet you, Travis. Go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys!
Make a new friend based solely on their shirt choice. What would you like the power to do?
This is the Dallas Cowboys pregame show, brought to you by
Bell Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Tyson Foods, get your Tyson Cowboys Star Nuggets available now. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
All right, we're 2 hours to kick off here at AT&T Stadium, and it is not a Cowboys game day if you don't hear the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. Let's go inside the booth right now and chat with the legend. Brad, happy game day, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much, Eric. I was just thinking, hearing the intro, when they came out with the Tyson's star-shaped nuggets,
Yeah.
they brought those, as you well know, they brought those up here voluminously.
They did.
And now today is the first home game, and they are unveiling, we should probably get Christy in on this at some point, they are unveiling in the stadium a whole raft of new concession food items. And I just wonder if we'll be seeing some of that, and if you guys will miss being up here instead of out on the lovely plaza.
I'll tell you what, I will be having some FOMO if I know you're digging into some fantastic items that Legends Hospitality has to offer.
We don't have anything yet, so you don't have to FOMO yet, but I'll let you know.
Okay, please do. That's actually a perfect segue because we are in the process of crowning a Meat Church Menu of the Day champion. Brad, I would like for you to be the arbiter for this, okay?
All right.
So we have a handful of Tolos texting in right now what they have on their game day menu. In the 682, you have brisket sandos, of course. In the 512, smoking some beef party ribs with the new Meat Church sauce, which is a winner. You got the 469 doing beef and chicken fajitas, sauteed red pepper, green pepper, onions.
That's a lot of work.
Jalapeno salsa. That's Robert in Carrollton. That's our reigning champ from last week. And then you have
better be if he's doing all that.
In the 325, you got bacon, egg, biscuits, gravy, sausage balls on the smoker with some of that voodoo rub, and then the skillet queso as well. So I'll allow you, Brad, to crown the champion today.
So the dilemma is, when for a noon game are you consuming all this?
Right.
I mean, just generally, the brisket sando is, if it's well done, that is hard to beat.
It is
but
hard,
now
truly. Very hard.
Right, but if you are consuming this at 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning, so you can be ready for noon, unless we're lapping it over and if you're watching it, if you're doing this at home,
right,
and you're listening to us with the sound turned down on your television, then anything goes, because then it can be kind of like Thanksgiving. You just eat right through the day.
Right.
I'm intrigued by the fajitas. That's a lot of work. And I can understand why he is the reigning champion, because that sounded good. The thing that would make me lean toward the fajitas is you have a little more versatility in there.
Right.
Because if you want to have the tortillas, have tortillas.
Yes.
But if you just want to eat the meat and the vegetables with the sauce that he's made, then you can do that too.
Sure.
So I'm a brisket fan. I'm leaning toward the reigning champion. I think I'm going with the fajitas, given the versatility and given the uncertainty of when you're going to be consuming this product.
What an absolutely beautiful breakdown from the legendary voice of the Cowboys,
You would
Brad
expect nothing
Sham.
less than that.
I mean,
Nothing.
absolutely.
That could have been a 1-2-word answer, and it turned into like a reasoning for us voting for that gentleman.
I've been known as a segment killer for as long as I can remember. And by the way, I owe you both an apology, because it was my full intent, and I've already told our engineer Tim Parker this, so I have a witness. It was my full intent to bring both of you and Brother Wolchuk some tasty Uncrustables today.
Oh.
And I forgot, because it was so dadgum early. But for the Green Bay game, I will be providing Uncrustables.
Absolutely fantastic, Brad.
So that Broaddus can read the label and see that it's not 1,000 calories.
Watch me go and get one from the Cowboys, and it's going to blow your mind how many calories that thing has.
It's got 220 calories.
I think there's an NFL version, Brad. There's an NFL version and a Brad Sham version. I think there's two versions of these things.
Well, let me just say that if there's a Brad Sham version, it's the one that's available to every human who's not an NFL player.
There you go.
So that's what we care about. We care about the people.
Yes, we care about the people here on this show. Brad, tell me to care about the football Giants today.
You mean what to care about?
Yeah, what to care about. Care about the Giants.
Have you seen who's playing cornerback for the Cowboys?
No, I was hopeful that you were going to tell me that I need to care more about the Giants today, and I do. I agree with you on this one. I do.
Hey,
agree.
Russell Wilson is right. Here are some things that we have to remember. What's my basic tenet in the NFL? Last week and this week have never met.
Never met.
And in addition to what Bob Papa told you, that especially early in the year, there's going to be a lot of difference from week 1 to week 2. It depends on the opponent and all of that. So no team, I don't want to say no team, there might be 3 or 4 in the league who actually have an identity yet. Neither one of these teams is in that group. So from the Giants' perspective, until you beat him, Russell Wilson is still one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Sure.
And this Cowboys team is going to have to stop a running quarterback from beating it. And they don't play the Rams, so I don't know if there is a non-running quarterback that they're going to face. So and Wilson can run, and you don't think they've been watching what Jalen Hurts did?
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing right now. Sure.
Okay. Malik Neighbors is a problem. Someone's got to cover him at some point. And then I think on the defensive side of the ball, they've got all these pass rushers. Now, I do like the direction the Cowboys' offensive line is going, and so I like the on-paper matchup of the offensive line and the protection scheme against the Giants' pass rushers better than I like the matchup on paper of the Giants' receivers and the Cowboys' secondary. Let's not forget, and I know you haven't, that Wan'Dale Robinson is one of the most undiscussed because of the team for which he plays, but effective slot receivers in the league. I think he leads the league in the last 2 years in first down conversions by slot receivers.
They went after him a lot last week against the Commanders. That's where they were throwing the football.
And so if they play a nickel and the Cowboys go to nickel, and Zion Childress or Reddy Stewart may be the next outstanding corner. But we don't know that, and we do know that Robinson is a dangerous receiver. I will say, last year, we all remember they got in cornerback trouble. Diggs was hurt. Bland was hurt. And they brought Josh Butler off the practice squad. Nobody expected anything, and he turned into a really pretty good player until he got hurt. And right now, I think they would go out and commit a little mayhem to have Josh Butler in the lineup. Forget about Ravel or anybody else. So, I mean, that's if they're in 3 wide, we don't know yet, Bryan. We don't know what Diggs' workload efficiency is. So if he isn't in the game, and you're talking about Elam on one corner and maybe Rochelle off the practice squad on the other corner, and Stewart in the slot, well, against Neighbors and Robinson, I'm a little concerned.
Brad Sham with us here on The Fan. Brad, is there anybody that you would like to see a little bit more of from a playing time standpoint on either side of the ball?
Yeah, Randy White.
Yeah.
That would a lot more Randy White. Yeah, sure. Obviously, I think Chiofalo. By the way, Randy White today could help him. Trust me. Just right off the street.
He could.
At his age. Chiofalo obviously has got to be on the field a little bit more. I don't have the sheet in front of me on the snap count. Bryan and I actually called Bryan this morning before you guys went on the air as I was driving in just because I hadn't seen him this week and wanted to confirm my thoughts about Ezeraku last week. That was a physical mismatch for a rookie playing his first game against Jordan Mailata. And I don't know about snaps. Eric, I don't know if it's in the spirit of the question you're asking, but I need to see a little more from Ezeraku because I do think he's a good player. And he just has not was not any kind of a factor in the game last week. But, clearly Chiofalo has to be on the field more, and I would love to see them figure out a way to take advantage of, and I believe they will. We've only got one game to look at, but, don't we all want to see Turpin do something besides go in motion?
Right.
So, at some point, and I wouldn't be afraid to use Flanoy, who's been added to the active roster. And I hear people screaming into their cars and across their barbecue pits, what about Jaden Blue? And I don't know, I haven't seen the inactive list, but I will be surprised if he is active. And what I'm hearing is that Jaden Blue is a work in progress. He's still a little immature. There are still things about his development that need a little time and a little more seasoning, and he's just not quite ready for prime time. That's why he was available in the 5th round. I'm not saying he's a washout. I'm not saying he's a bust. I think he's going to be a good player. But there are some things that you have to be able to count on, and I think that he's still learning how to be a professional football player, and there's a lot that goes into that. So I think it might be a little bit of time, not a lot, but a little bit of time before we see Blue, and I don't think it'll be today. He would be one guy who would fall into that category, but I don't think he is today.
Brad, this Cowboy inside three, when you're starting to talk about the offensive line, is better equipped to handle things within the division now with the big defensive tackles that they have, right?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's most encouraging about last week, and as you and I were talking about on the phone this morning, Bryan, we saw practice. We saw every practice in training camp.
Sure.
So, I think those guys are better. Obviously, Booker helps them. And, hey, I'm the president of the Zach Martin fan club. You have to go through me if you want to say anything about Zach. Zach would be the first one to tell you he wasn't himself last year, even before the injuries forced him out. From the beginning, he wasn't healthy with his ankle especially. So Booker probably will be an upgrade over what Zach was last year. Beebe, I think, is demonstrably improved, as you would hope would be the case for a variety of reasons. And, Tyler Smith, I think, earned his contract. So, I think that's really encouraging. And I think that I think the offensive line has got a chance to develop sooner than later into a real strength.
Is a Brad Sham game day call to Brian Broaddus, is that a standard call, or are we talking FaceTime here? Are we talking FaceTime?
No, I was driving. I'm not going to FaceTime.
Okay, all right, very good.
No, I wanted to talk about Ezeraku, and I hadn't seen Brian during the week, and our work schedules sometimes conflict, so I thought, well, I'm early enough. I think I know where he is. I bet he can answer the phone.
There's no question. Well,
now that whether he would, seeing my name came up, that is a different story. Whether he would, that was a coin flip. But I thought he would. I thought he'd be reachable.
Well, you've been busy making part of the top 100 players in Cowboys history list, Brad.
You know what? Can I be completely honest with you? They asked me to participate in that, and they gave me like 24 hours. Jeez. And I didn't turn a list in because that was going to take a minute.
Yeah.
Because I've seen almost all of the players in Cowboys history.
I have too.
And so that and they were done. The Morning News was done with that list before I had a chance to turn mine in.
Jeez.
Well, you still got the credit, Brad. So
I did. Well, they asked me. So okay. I didn't. I never turned in a list. That's just I got to be honest with the folks.
No, I love it. Well,
but go ahead and pretend I did and ask me whatever you were going to ask me about.
Well, I have a little bit more youth and a lot more inexperience than you, and just generally
let me
less
ask you this,
wisdom.
Brad. I'll ask you this real quick.
Way to rub it in, Eric.
No, I said less wisdom as well.
I had to fend for us, Brad, the other day on the radio. What did you think about the players from the 70s that they put in? Did you think they had them in the right spots?
What, Bryan? To be honest with you, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the list.
Okay.
But I heard that Eddie LeBaron was on the list. And I'm not, and that's not the 70s, but I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure that's. I mean, he was one of the 100 most important players because he was the very first quarterback. But I don't know if he was one of the top 100 players.
Right.
Tell me what they did in this with the 70s list, and I'll give you a gut.
Well, no, we were just talking about the relation of where they should have the Drew Pearsons and people like that. That's. I
mean, he's high. Drew Pearson
very high.
Should be
exactly.
High.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean he played the era that he played. That's what people forget. You can't compare eras. Rules were different, and I say this all the time. Drew Pearson, what did he play at? 170 pounds, and that would if he was bulked up, and safeties could legally carry tire irons.
Right.
Into the secondary then and beat you with them. And he took pride in running over the middle. He used to call it Drew's zone. We're going into Drew's zone if we need to win this game. And so that toughness, in addition to just his receiving ability and leadership, that puts him, I'm just off the top of my head, and they've had some great players off the top of my head. He's a top 20 player, I think.
Yep.
I love it, Brad. Regular season game for the Cowboys, number 1,000 with you on the call. We wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for the time, my man.
Thank you, fellas. Have a great day.
You too. The pregame show brought to you by Reliant, proud sponsor and proud to power the home of Dallas Cowboys and the homes of Cowboys fans across Texas. Reliant, the official energy provider of the Dallas Cowboys. And look at this. We are now just over 90 minutes to a Cowboys kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Let's go inside the Star with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, next right here on The Fan. All right, we're just over 90 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium, Week 2 with the Giants in town. Regular season game number 1,000 for the Dallas Cowboys. How about that? Let's go inside the Star with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, live here on the Miller Lite West Plaza. Happy game day, Bob. How you doing?
Happy game day. I'm doing great. How are y'all?
We're good, man. We're good. We're fired up for this game. Your boy Dak was absolutely on fire last week. Keeping that thing going versus the Giants would be a wonderful thing for sure. And it's been kind of a crazy week in Cowboys land. You had the Tyler Smith deal come down. You had Clowney coming into the building for a visit. And then, of course, the Deron Bland injury. First of all, what did you think of the Tyler Smith contract?
Look, I mean, I think that, obviously, for some reason, the tackle and edge market hasn't kept up, equal to each other. You see that a little bit sometimes where receivers were way above corners for a while, and still are in a lot of ways. You get the edge rushers that are ahead of the tackle. So it's difficult sometimes to stagger the value. Do you to stagger it by how good is somebody like Tyler Smith at guard, stopping the guys that are in front of him, and then should he be paid similar to them, or should you look at it as should he be near the top of the highest paid guards? I do think he's fantastic. I think he's going to end his career as along that same lineage of greatest offensive linemen that they've had around here. I think he's fantastic and really one of the personnel department's biggest success stories probably over the last decade. It's, to me, the ones that stand out of just in the face of everything people were saying outside, they were right. It's, to me, the ones that come to mind are Tyler Smith and Travis Frederick. Those are the guys that really pop.
Bobby, give me your take on Jadon Blue and what's the story there?
When Schottenheimer got asked about that on Monday, he gave an interesting answer. He had said that, he talked about that, look, when guys are preparing for, when they're young and they're getting ready to get their first opportunities and they want them to contribute every week and be consistent and do those sort of things, that what you'll see consistently is guys and players who they have a good day of practice on a Wednesday and then a Thursday they take a step back.
Right.
And then maybe it's good on this day and it's a step back here, and they need to become somebody that they can consistently rely on. And he contrasted it with Tyler Booker, where he's like, Tyler Booker has not been perfect, but Tyler Booker has been the same guy every day. We know what we can expect from him. And so I think when you hear Schottenheimer talk about that, they're just they still believe in his talent, definitely. They still believe in what he can be for them. But Schottenheimer's talked about that he thinks there are growing pains there, essentially on the path to becoming a true professional football player Monday to Sunday that they can count on regularly. And look, I mean, I think I know a lot of people want the Miles Sanders release.
Yeah, that's
and
what
stuff after fumble and different things like that.
I get more Miles Sanders why, and why not Jadon Blue? But you're explaining very well why no Jadon Blue right now.
Yeah, and I think somebody had mentioned to me that I can't remember which play it was. They said there was a play last week where you can see Sanders quickly adjust and step in and prevent Dak from getting killed on a blitz.
Right.
That they're that's the kind of stuff and consistency and awareness they probably are still looking for from Jadon Blue. And I know there's been so much about, well, look, he fumbled. Why should Jadon Blue should have been out there? It's well, if you're worried about fumbling, I don't know that Jadon Blue's the guy you want out there. That was the kind of a big problem as at Texas. But look, he's a talented player. He went in the 5th round for a reason, and they're trying to work on some of those reasons, I think.
Bobby Belt with us here on the Fan, and Broaddus, you can jump in on this as well. But they bring in Clowney for a visit this week. Where do we think things stand with that?
Well, I know, Bryan, you talked about this week how it sounded like something from, Clowney's side where he wanted to just slow play things.
He wanted to slow play this thing.
And look, I mean, I think that regardless of, if you just tell me he's interested and the Cowboys are interested, and the question is, should you get it done? To me, the answer is yes. I like what I saw on tape when I watched the guy. He's not the guy that he was 8 years ago in terms of explosiveness and some of those things. He kind of wins as a pass rusher now off of his IQ and some of his toolbox that he knows he can rely on. But against the run, man, he still looks like a really good run defender to me. And I mean, that's something that they want. If they want somebody who's going to come in here, contribute on the edge as a run defender, and still give them something as a pass rusher, then yeah, I think that Clowney, if he wants to be here and you've got freed up money from what you did with Micah, and it's a 1-year deal, like a lot of these mercenary deals he tends to sign over his career, to me, I say go ahead and do it.
Is it an indictment on somebody currently on the team of going in week 2 and looking? And I know that it's a veteran. You're trying to prevent if you get a veteran on the first week, that's the contract and all that stuff. But is it something that is it more than just, hey, we do this 24/7? We're into, we look at players.
Right. Yeah.
Is it something they saw with their edges that made them do this?
I think in general, what they saw,
or at least look into it.
Yeah, if I was gonna, I would personally say, and I don't know if this was the player for them. I'm sure they weren't satisfied with some of the discipline of some of their defensive linemen.
Sure.
I'm sure they would like to see more pass rush from Ezeraku and different things like that.
Yeah.
But if you're going to tell me all the things I just described about Clowney, who's supposed to be doing that for you and isn't, would be Dante Fowler. Dante Fowler in week 1 was not good against the run. Dante Fowler was not generating enough of a pass rush. He was not the guy that Washington had last year. I turned on our sister station from 105.3 The Fan in Washington, D.C., 106.7. I was listening to them the day after the Cowboys game, and that was the first segment they were mentioning. They were like, boy, you saw last night why like a lot of the stuff why a lot of people were saying Dante Fowler could go ahead and go because of just some of the discipline issues.
Maybe not a
like
starter, but like more of a rotational player, backup guy.
Yeah, and Eberflus and White Cotton both, and all of their stops have shown they will run 8-9 deep rotations on the defensive line.
You were talking
bodies.
about that in training camp. You said get ready for a big rotation.
Yeah,
guys.
Rod Marinelli, who influenced Eberflus, and you've got the San Francisco philosophy that Aaron White Cotton came from. Like both of those are systems where you could end up at the end of the season having like 8-9 guys that have played 45 to +% of the snaps, and usually your max guy. I remember under Marinelli, I think the top guy every year would be somebody who played like 65% of the snaps. They rotate so heavily that you need a lot of bodies in there.
At the end of this day, when we talk to you in the post game with me and Wolchuk, are you going to tell us that Dexter Lawrence or Kenny Clark was a better player in the game?
Oh man, I have a hard time saying that anybody at defensive tackle is going to be better than Dexter Lawrence, even if Kenny Clark's really good. Obviously, that would respond to how good was the Cowboys' offensive line. But
sure.
I imagine we're going to say Dexter Lawrence is better just because Dexter Lawrence is who he is. But I got to say, you mentioned Kenny Clark. I think this will be a good day for Oso Odigizua.
Yeah, I think quickness is going to. Yeah.
I liked John Michael Schmitz when he was coming out. There were a couple different times you saw in week 1 where he was having some problems and he was getting kind of turned around.
Sure.
And so I think Odigizua rushing up, against Schmitz or the guards there for the Giants, I think that he's going to have a lot of success. But yeah, I would probably say Lawrence, but I will say Kenny Clark, man, if you look at the numbers, I think when he was on the field last week, the yards per attempt was something like 3.1.
Yeah.
And when he was off it was 6.2.
I think it was less. I think it was less than 3. I think it was like 2.
He was a
2.9. It was
And we saw him on Monday, which was just a very light practice. And he comes in and he looks like Bronco Nagurski, like he's got blood like running from his lip and it's all busted up, and we're like, what happened to your lip? And he's like, just practicing a little hard. It's like, and so he was he's been a really stable force, a really good quote, a really good leader, you can tell, and what he's doing on the field is something that they haven't typically gotten. And so I think that, is he Micah Parsons? No, he's not. But he is so important to something that they have really, really struggled with.
It's our Cowboys insider Bobby Belt with us here on The Fan. How queasy are you about the idea of no Deron Bland today? Yeah.
How queasy am I for what?
Bobby's getting some dap-ups right here from Cowboys fans, big-time 6 a.m. clubbers. Queasy about the Deron Bland injury and him not being out there right now?
Yeah, so, look, I'd probably feel more sick about it if you told me that, the Cowboys were going to have issues or the Giants were going to have better luck this week actually protecting Russell Wilson. Because if you're going to give Russell Wilson time, you're going to give Malik Neighbors time to just do what he wants in that secondary. Yeah, that'd be really concerning for this week. Now, obviously, into the future, you don't want to miss Deron Bland. You paid Deron Bland for a reason. He's, to me, the best cornerback that you have on the team, and I want him out there. I want him out there contributing. Not having him there is tough, and he does a bunch of different things for you, and he can be flexible, and that ruins some of the flexibility that you want to do. And so it's a concern, and you don't like when guys start having, even if it's different ones, you don't like when the foot issue starts becoming a guy. When chronic feet issues start showing up for guys in the NFL, that's never a good sign. So you hope he can just bounce back from this really quickly. But yeah, he's going to be missed. I don't know if today's going to be as big of a problem just because I don't know if the Giants can protect long enough for it to impact as much as you would normally think.
Bobby, this is Nick Eatman always used to have me do the crazy thought of the day, thought of the game. Mine is that we're going to see Jackson Dart in the second half. Which you got a crazy thought for this? Something that you just this is wild, but get ready kind of a thing.
Man, that's a good one. So I do think Jackson Dart's going to show up in this game.
I do.
And I think that he's going to. I mean, Russell Wilson he was under so much duress. It was really tough for him. A crazy thought for this game. I don't know why the spread is 4.5 or 5.5 or whatever.
You think it should be bigger?
I think Dallas. Like, even if you have questions about Dallas, I just think what Dallas does well and what the Giants don't do well is such a bad mismatch in this game that I think they're going to be able to take a lot of advantage of it. I'll give you a crazy thought for the day just from where the famous is. I think everybody's going to stop complaining about Miles Sanders today.
There you go. Be able to run the football a little bit. I mean, Javonte Williams looked sharp last week.
Yeah,
and Sanders obviously had the.
And if you want to talk about, I don't know if you noticed this on tape against Washington, Brian.
Yeah.
Did you notice how many times last week Washington would run the ball and then the pile would move 3-4 more yards? Where it's like, okay, they don't. I mean, if you want to bully that Giants defense a little bit with the run game, if Williams wants to do that, I think he can drag that pile a few extra yards.
No, McFadden hurts them today. Bob Papa talked about that. That affects them in the running game.
Yeah, their linebacker there. That was a huge injury in the middle of that game last week for the Giants. What do you think about the George Pickens start to the season, and how much would you like to see them try and make him more of a focal point?
Again, that was something that Shoddy talked about this week, too. He said, it's not a thing where we go in there and go, all right, you got the ball this time. Now you're going to get the ball this time. You're going to get I think Pickens understands that, when you drop back, when Dak's dropping back, he's a lot of times looking directly ahead. He's looking at the safeties. And there are going to be a lot of instances where when he looks at the safeties and what they're doing, that is going to instantly take out, some of the guys' routes. And so, for instance, there was one on the play to Schoonmaker on that second down late in the game where Dak threw it and it was a really tight throw. It was
a great throw.
A lot of people were talking about, man, the dig for George Pickens was there, and it wasn't covered that hard. And it's like, okay, but at the start of the snap, they're in single high. Dak sees that safety in the middle of the field, and he goes, all right, Pickens running the dig right into that. It's out. I'm not even looking there. I'm going to the right. And so I think in some of those instances, it's just bad luck for where he's lined up and what the safety read is. He made a great catch on that fourth down drive on the third down play and kept the drive going. But I believe in him. I think he's going to be good for them this year, and I think he'll have big games. And, it's just going to be a different week whose turn it is to get big opportunities and feast off of that.
I'm fascinated by Shoddy's love affair for you.
Look, I mean, we're best friends.
It's clear.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it went from one guy to just horribly to all of a sudden now you got a great relationship.
What a difference a year makes, guys. That's you can
you willed it.
Yeah, you can go to bed one night just thinking the world's ending, and the next day you wake up and you're just like, oh, look how beautiful the sunshine and the grass and the blue sky are. That's like what waking up this year with the coaches.
Your buddy better not go out there and lose this game today. Then if that's the case,
no. They're going to win this game by 2 touchdowns plus.
Woo. I love it. I love the confidence here from our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, live at AT&T Stadium. Anything else before we let you go?
Just that I love you all.
Love you more. There he goes. Bobby Belt here on the official pregame show of America's Team, brought to you by United Healthcare. United Healthcare is the proud official healthcare partner of the Dallas Cowboys, bringing coverage you can count on to Cowboys territory. Learn more at uhc.com. All right, where we stand here. Wow, how about this? We're under 90 minutes to kick off. It's time to get the scoop from the best in the business. Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales joins us next right here on The Fan. Welcome into the official pregame show of America's Team, and we will get the scoop from Christy Scales, Cowboy sideline reporter, coming up here in just a few minutes. Who's in, who's out, and she'll give us the full 4-1-1. Now, friendly reminder that when you're here at AT&T Stadium, you're going to get taken care of at the highest level.
Absolutely, you're going to get taken care
Legends Hospitality back at it again for another season. A litany of new menu items for Cowboys fans to appreciate and consume. And something special today, too. Mansfield ISD and Arlington ISD students will be cooking for fans here at AT&T Stadium, which is very exciting. And, of course, you have the lineman burrito. I mean, how about
that? That thing is incredible.
They just delivered it to us, and it is truly 10 out of 10. I mean, I'm telling you, if you're coming to the game today, this has to be on the checklist for items to eat. 17-inch flour tortilla, filled.
It is filled.
It is filled,
It
man.
is filled.
With Cowboys mac and cheese, the famous Cowboys mac and cheese. You have in-house smoked brisket, the jalapeno pepper jack sausage, pico de gallo, and house-made candied jalapenos.
It's crazy. When you take a bite of it, you make sure you get a fork with it. You take the bite, but then there's so much filling, it goes out the side, so you have to scrape it up with the fork. But, man, what just glorious bite every time you take it.
Truly incredible. All right, today's game between the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys at AT&T Stadium is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Raise your Dr. Pepper glass to America's Team. It's a pepper thing. All right, let's get the scoop from Cowboy sideline reporter Christy Scales. She's inside of AT&T Stadium right now. Christy, happy game day. I cannot believe this is regular season game number 1,000 for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think it's appropriate that you're going against a team that you have the long history playing all the way back to your inaugural season of 1960. So I think there's a lot of symmetry, and it's going to be a great crowd today. They've got the white towels on all of the seats, so we're going to have a little bit of a whiteout once we kick off at 12:02 Central.
I love it. I love it. Okay, what do we need to know about who's in and, more importantly, who's out today?
Well, we know Deron Bland, he's the only one that is out due to injury because of the foot injury suffered in practice last Monday. The others are Jaden Blue. I know you've been talking about him. Shamar James, the rookie linebacker, is out. Mozzie Smith, another coach's decision, inactive this week. And then you have three of the backup offensive linemen, Johnny Cornelius, Hakeem Adeniji, and Trevor Keegan. So Mozzie's out again, and Jaden Blue out again, and Deron Bland's being out. The good news is that they are expecting that Trayvon Diggs will be able to play more than the 20 to 30 snaps that he was supposed to get last week. He ended up playing 27. And let me tell you what the plan, as far as I understand it, at cornerback is. They don't have him on a hard pitch count of, say, 20 to 30 or 30 to 40. But they also know it's not necessarily reasonable to expect that he would play a full complement in a game, which is usually between 60 to 65 defensive plays, right? About 65 in a game. So what you will probably see is one of the cornerbacks who had been claimed off of waivers just a few weeks ago, Triquez Bridges, claimed off waivers from the Chargers, working in at that outside cornerback spot to give Trayvon Diggs a spell. And because we know that the other cornerback who was claimed off of waivers from the Vikings, Reddy Stewart is going to be playing in the slot in place of Deron Bland. So with Trayvon, again, it's going to be kind of how he's feeling. It's going to be more than he did last week, but probably not the whole game if it's like the normal 60 to 65 snaps. Of course, if there are certain situations such as red zone or third and long, they definitely want Trayvon in those situations. But get ready to see some guys that you haven't seen before. Now, Triquez Bridges and Reddy Stewart did play last week on special teams. And then Robert Rochelle, who had a good camp for the Cowboys, it was elevated from the practice squad and is available today. He would be your backup to Kyer Elam over at the other spot at outside cornerback. And then Zion Childress, who just had an excellent preseason. He's been elevated from the practice squad, and he is the backup to Reddy Stewart in the slot.
Christy, man, you just went through a litany of things that are going to happen today. And talking to coaches on the field or during the week, how do they feel about all this?
Well, I tell you, they like Bridges. I was talking with David Overstreet, who's the defensive backs coach, and so the thing about Bridges is he had played safety early in his career, so before moving to corner, so a great understanding of the entire defensive backfield. Of course, when you're a safety, communication is a key, right? So he understands the importance of communication and is a good communicator. And so, Overstreet says he's a smart player, and luckily he did not have to play last week because Diggs played a lot and you had Bland available last week. Again, he wasn't injured in the game last week. It was in practice on Monday. But these guys that they brought in, Reddy Stewart, as some familiarity, everybody's talking about, the familiarity with Matt Eberflus in his time with the Bears. Well, yes, he in practice, but he had only played one game for the Bears. So, I mean, that's better than none, but it's not like they were together 10 years or so. So, this is going to be testing. You have a guy like in Russell Wilson, a veteran quarterback, that if he gets the time, and we know that Russell Wilson, what does everybody say? Oh, he's great at throwing the deep ball, right? They're one of the best. So I think this is one of those games where it's really incumbent upon the front seven, the front four in particular, to keep the pressure on Russell Wilson and not give him time for those long throws. And the other thing is Malik Neighbors. I know that you guys were talking with Bob Papa about him earlier, but Neighbors is a guy that played more in the slot last week, percentage of plays, than he had all of last year. So I'm just curious as to whether or not they may try and have him play some inside and get some of those mismatches with a guy like Stewart.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing, Russell Wilson, he's not a runner to the Jalen Hurts level at this point probably in his career, but he's still absolutely mobile. Do we feel good about the Eberflus plan and the way they adjusted things in the second half versus Philadelphia, slowing down Hurts' legs?
Well, I think it's the main thing that we heard during the week was rush lane integrity, right? And so when that broke down, Jalen Hurts was able to exploit that at times. So, and the thing about this Giants run game, they only had 30 yards from the running backs last week against the Commanders. Russell Wilson by himself had more rushing yards than all of the running backs combined, but that was under duress. Those weren't necessarily designed runs. That was just him running for his life. So, I know the Cowboys front seven, with the pressure, you want him to do that again, but you just got to maintain that rush lane integrity so that he doesn't slip out.
Christy, what do you think about the linebacker situation right now? Is there any chance we could start to see a little bit more of Maris Liufau, or are they comfortable with these guys?
No, I am told that Marist will get a little more time today. I'm endeavoring to see how they're going to do it, if they're going to maybe do it by like a series or two. So I don't have that information yet, but I am told that he may get a little more on defense. Now, they didn't change anything with the green dots, right? The three guys who are designated to wear the radio helmets. It's Murray, Sanborn, and Clark, as it was last week. So it's not like they're giving Liufau a green dot because they think he's going to be out there so much more. So I found that kind of interesting. And sometimes you can kind of pick up clues by like, okay, he's got the green dot, so he's going to maybe get some more. So they hadn't changed anything with the green dots, but I am told that Liufau will get some more defensive snaps today.
Awesome, Christy. You're the best. We appreciate the time, and we'll catch up with you again next hour.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
There she goes, Cowboy sideline reporter Christy Scales, as we inch closer and closer to a Cowboy kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Broaddus a couple of things to know.
Yeah.
One, first of all, Dak played unbelievable last week.
Did a nice job.
Cowboys have won 13 games in a row against the Giants with Prescott as their starting quarterback.
Uh-huh.
And this is a nugget that I loved, and it's multifaceted, I think, from the credit standpoint, but the Cowboys converted a league best almost 64% of their third downs in week one versus the Eagles. And so a lot of that on Dak,
right.
A lot of that on Shoddy, the play calling, and then the run game. I think plenty of it has to do with they weren't in a ton of third and super long situations.
Yeah.
And so you're able to get good yardage on first and second down, being able to run the football. All of that is fantastic. Dallas is one of only two teams that did not have a drive without a new set of downs last week. So they never had just a 3-and-out situation.
Sure.
And I mean that's a tough thing to be able to sustain, and that's hugely encouraging for the offense. On the flip side, the Giants punted on a league-high 67% of their possessions in Week 1 after ranking 30th in that same department last year. So that was not a way to start the season for the Giants.
Something to keep an eye on, too. The Giants have a left-footed punter. You don't always see that in the league. So the way the ball spins, the ball goes away. So Turpin, I wonder if this week that they worked on some of that, maybe the left-footed punter aspect of this thing. But keep an eye on that. It's a different trajectory of the ball coming off the left foot. Might be a little bit of a problem, something that they need to get to, especially if the Giants are punting a bunch.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Just the little details. The little details of the game that could swing things in a big way. Cowboys obviously got to be able to take care of the football. They did a great job for the most part of that last week. The Giants allowed the highest pressure rate on non-blitz dropbacks in Week 1 as well. So hopefully that front four can really get after this Giants offensive line. All right, we're just over 60 minutes to kick off. It's an absolutely loaded final hour. We'll hear from head coach Brian Schottenheimer, also hear from Jerry Jones, and of course, more Super Bowl winning analysis from Brian Broaddus right here on The Fan.
Hey, I'm Brett Podolsky, co-founder of The Farmer's Dog. We make fresh food for dogs. We started the company when we saw what a huge difference it made in my own dog, Jake.
home of America's team, is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas, Fort Worth.
An Odyssey sports station. The Dallas Cowboys radio network is on the air.
Deep fade, left corner of the end zone, 1-for-1. Caught the ball. Touchdown. Touchdown, Cowboys.
With Brad Schaub, Babe Loffenberg, Christy Scales, Eric Chiofalo, and Bryan Broaddus. Brought to you by
AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with blockchain.com.
Also brought to you by
Bell Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Tyson Foods, get your Tyson Cowboys Star Nuggets available now. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
All right, we're 60 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium for regular season game number 1,000 for the Dallas Cowboys. How about that with the Giants in town? Week 2 handle business game. That's what we're doing here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Great to have you in the official pregame party of America's team live on the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. I'm Eric Chiofalo alongside the Super Bowl winning scout Bryan Broaddus. And Broaddus, let's go ahead and preview this bad boy, brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Also brought to you by SeatGeek. And I'm calling it a handle business game. Just get in here and get the first win of the season. Schottenheimer's first home game as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Don't sleepwalk through a noon kick.
No, they don't need to sleepwalk. And they got off to a really great start against Philadelphia and was able to do some things offensively. Need to keep that pace up through. Don't let something deter you. Don't get away from your game plan. Don't, the weather delay might have affected both teams in that Philadelphia, especially both offenses. But I give the Cowboys credit, Matt Eberflus and those guys, when Matt talked about that going in there and then finding some things to kind of say, okay, listen, need to do this a little bit better. So maybe help that defense kind of rally a little bit better in Philadelphia. But offensively, though, don't stop with the motions. Don't stop with the things that, put this Giants secondary in some bad spots.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised, though, if the Cowboys come out and really try and run the football and take some of it to these Giants' edges. They're a little bit of lighter defenders on the outside. They're going to be missing Micah McFadden, their linebacker, today. That's going to be a problem for them. I think running the football might be a nice path to a little bit of a victory today. Just be consistent with it, maybe set up some other things. Don't get me wrong. You protect your front, and you're able to protect Dak Prescott. There's some throws to be made downfield, but running the football against a Giants defense that might be compromised a little bit at that linebacker spot and lighter on the edge might be a good way to go as well.
Yeah, and the Cowboys did a great job running the football last week. So many things to like about their offense last week. They came out
the offensive
rocking.
line, the tight ends, yeah.
Yes, I mean, Dak Prescott was on fire, and outside of the drops, of course, but everything for CeeDee Lamb, but the aggressive nature with the way they were pushing the ball down the field and Dak being as dialed as he was, Javonte Williams adding an element of physicality in the run game, and the Giants should provide some good opportunity for the Cowboys offense today. But no Deron Bland for the Cowboys defense. Diggs still kind of working his way back into being a full 100% snap type player. What do you think about the secondary for the Cowboys today?
Well, Christy Scales from the field was telling us, and she was walking us through a lot of moving parts here. Like, okay, if Diggs needs a rest, this is who's coming in. And there's all these, they're probably going a little longer at the position than they would normally go to have to make up for that. The thing that worries me about the Giants is that they have some quality of the wide receivers with Malik Neighbors, and then also with Wan'Dale Robinson as well. And then how does Dallas match up with that? Does Neighbors play in the slot? Is Reedy Stewart ready to go? That's where these things are all kind of going to play in your mind right now. Is how are they going to match up, and are they going to be able? The Giants will give pressure. Their offensive line will give pressure. So that's just can you get somebody home Will Matt Eberflus have to bring the extra defender like he did after the weather delay against Philadelphia, or is he going to try and rush this group with 4?
What's your bold prediction for today's game?
The bold prediction is I think that Jackson Dart is going to play in this football game. I think the Cowboys are going to find a way to build a lead in the first half, and the Giants maybe are going to sputter along with offense. Maybe the ball's not going down the field. Maybe the ball's not going over the middle of the field. Maybe they're not running the football very well, and all of a sudden they're going to maybe look for a spark. And if and I think that Brian Daboll will say, listen, we missed some opportunities with Russell Wilson playing quarterback, that you put Jackson Dart in the game and see what happens. I think we're closer. So again, talking to Bob Papa like we did earlier, I think they're closer to this than they are being farther away from it. This is a coach and a coaching staff that is really, really fighting for your job. They've got to find a way to show some offensive creativity, but some offensive spark. And Jackson Dart might be able to do that for them.
Coming into the season, the Giants' pass rush was considered one of the more vaunted units in the sport. Week 1 versus the Commanders. What'd you think of it?
I'll tell you what, it's a. You could tell that they've spent resources and money on their defensive line, and then it's worked out. I feel pretty well when you start to talk about the defensive tackles, the edges right there. That's a formidable group in this division that you're going to have to deal with. The problem that they run into is they've done the same thing on the offensive side of the ball, and it hasn't worked on the offensive line. But that defense, when you talk about Abdul Carter, he looks just as good as advertised. And they're probably going to. There's combinations where they play him and Thibodeau and Burns. They play them on the same side. So all of a sudden now you've got maybe Carter playing as that nickel tackle and Thibodeau or Burns on the outside, and then you're having to navigate like, okay, got to slide the protection. How are we going to double? How are we going to make these blocks when you got 2 guys on the same side that can rush the passer? That makes it very, very difficult for your scheme.
All right, we're under 60 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium. Let's get you the Coach's Corner with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, and Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. We're just over 45 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium. Cowboys and Giants Week 2, where the Cowboys looking for the first win of the season and the first win of the Brian Schottenheimer era. And we're looking forward to that for sure. We'll go into the owner's box with Jerry Jones coming up here in a few minutes. But right now, it's time for today's Coach's Corner. It's the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, standing by with Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer.
Guys, thank you. Home opener for Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer, although you've stood on this sideline before, so it's not a brand new place. Here's the question that I'm curious about. The parity, I'll use that word, in this league seems to me to dictate that whatever happened with your team, whoever that is, last week, says nothing about what will happen in the next week. Am I right about that, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think the NFL's in an incredible spot. It's right where Commissioner Goodell and the owners want it. I think it's every Sunday, truly anybody can win any matchup, any game, and you're judged on your overall success. But the cool thing for us is when Sunday night ends, or in our case last Thursday night, when that game ends at midnight, you have to make the corrections, take it all in, win or lose, and then move on. And because you got another great opponent coming in here with the Giants today, and I think the league's in a great standing. That's why it's so popular, because you just really, truly never know who's going to find a way to overcome and win.
Your players are mostly young men and human beings, so they knew all about the Philadelphia Eagles. They didn't have to worry about their focus. When you tell them that the New York Giants are just as tough as the Philadelphia Eagles, do you think they believe you?
I think so. I think they watch the film. I mean, our guys, in our business, Brad, we love watching film, and the film never lies. The film tells a true story, and this is a damn good football team. This is a team with a veteran quarterback, a good running back, an excellent receiver that I think is a star in the making in Malik Neighbors, and then on defense, the resources that they put into that defensive line is strong. And so again, if you can't get motivated to play every week in this league, then there's something wrong with you, because it's such a competitive league.
What does the loss of Deron Bland for however long he won't play today? So what does that do? How do you feel about your cornerback depth?
Yeah, again, I think we'll make some moves today and get some guys elevated that need to go play. But again, the big thing Deron has is the flexibility to play corner and inside. Again, what I love about Matt Eberflus is his ability to adjust. I think you'll see a guy, Reddy Stewart, play a lot of football for us. This is why you go out and you sign a guy like this right after final cuts, because he knows Flus's system. He's a really good run defender, good blitzer coming off the edge, and going back to his days in college, he had, I think, 12 interceptions in college, and so we love the ability to take the ball away. That's one of the big focuses for us today, right, is we got to come out ahead in the turnover ratio game. We were -1 last week against Philadelphia, and truly between you and I think it's kind of what ended up us not creating enough turnovers, and then the fumble in the red zone. That could have been the difference in the game.
I was thinking about Stewart when I was thinking about you got so many cornerbacks who are still unable to play. Josh Butler was a guy who came out of nowhere last year, played really well. Now you'd probably hurt someone to get Josh Butler on the field. Can Stewart be that guy?
Yeah, again, the fact that he knows Flus's system, he knows our system, he's very, very smart. He's got experience playing in this style. So when you talk about hits principle and all the things that we believe in philosophically, that to him, he understands all those things. And, I kind of tease Britt Brown, when he's over there doing the rehab guys. He's like, he's got his own secondary over there, and that's all part of the deal. But I've said it for a couple weeks now, help's on the way. And, again, this is a long, long season. And, again, we feel good about the guys that are out there today competing, but also the guys we got coming soon.
How does the Russell Wilson you will compete against today compare to the one you coached?
I still see the same things I see from Russ. Here's a guy, best deep ball thrower I've ever been around. Ability to improvise and move and make plays and buy time is great. When I watched the film of the Giants offense last week, I'm reminded of how hard it is to play quarterback in this league, and you're not out there by yourself. It's not like shooting free throws in basketball. There's other things that affect your life, and the one thing I know about Russ, man, he is an incredible competitor, and we will get everything that he has, and that's the only way he knows how to play the game.
I was thinking a lot of people probably were after the Philadelphia game, well, at least you won't see anybody running like Jalen Hurts for a while. That's not true. Almost every quarterback you're going to play is beginning today is a running threat. So what do you think you've done during the week and Flus has been able to come up with to at least improve what you were able to do in that area.
Yeah, the rush lane discipline's got to get better. I mean, there was just, I'd say, really three I can kind of think of where we just gave up contain and we had everybody covered, which is a good thing. But when you have everybody covered and you have these mobile quarterbacks, if you lose your rush lane discipline, obviously the quarterback gets out, and then the offense kind of has the advantage because the quarterback has the ability to run. He can throw, or he can give the illusion that he's going to throw and then run, and that's kind of what happened on a few of those plays. And with Russ, it's no different. But like you said, it's a discipline thing. It does happen occasionally, but it happened too much against Philadelphia, and we have to be better.
Last one. I don't know why I have a feeling this could be a good game for your tight ends. Don't tell me the game plan, but is that a reasonable feeling to have?
I think so. I think, this is a defense that loves to play spot drop three. What that means is basically the underneath coverage defenders, they run to certain spots on the field, so that creates voids in the middle of the field. But, again, you know me, I'm a big fan of our tight end room. Again, a guy like Jake Ferguson, again, just has had an incredible offseason training camp. And then, you got Schoonmaker, Brevin Spahn forward. Those are guys that, again, we're really, really excited about. And we'll see where the ball comes out in distribution today.
Enjoy your home opener.
Thank you, buddy.
Fellas, back to you.
Thank you, Brad Sham. There it is. Today's Coach's Corner brought to you by Gillette, the official shave of the Dallas Cowboys. Broaddus Schottenheimer knows Russell Wilson pretty well. I guess that could add to a little bit of help there when trying to stop him.
Yeah, it sure does. And, that's the thing when you watch Russell Wilson play, it's not always around the edge where he attacks you. It's the middle of the pocket, the rush discipline he talks about. If all of a sudden you rush him and then you don't get on top of him, then he is going to get really small and he's going to go forward, and then that's when he's able to break the pocket. So you've got to get bodies around him. Rod Marinelli used to tell me about playing Russell Wilson when he was at Seattle. Make him play backwards. Make him play out of the well. Keep bodies around him. Push the front of the pocket, but make him have to throw over the top of you. It's hard for him because he's a little bit of a shorter guy.
I'm anxious to see and excited to see how Schotty has this team ready to play today. I mean, many folks, including myself, patting them on the back for last week in a game in which they lost. Home noon games here at AT&T Stadium with the Cowboys being a big favorite. Not always gone the way that we had hoped. We saw plenty of times with previous coaches, the team will come out a little bit flat and uninspired. So I'm excited to see how Schotty has these guys cranked up, ready to rock and roll. They were so good, especially offensively, to start the game last week, and the Giants should be providing a great opportunity for the Cowboys to do the same today. All right, we're still just getting started here, inching closer and closer to kickoff. 40 minutes to kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Come see us in the Miller Lite West Plaza if you're coming out to the game. Let's get to know the enemy, and let's go into the owner's box with Jerry Jones. That's coming up next. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Okay, quiz fans, what's one word to describe Whataburger's new prickly pear raspberry?
Broaddus.
All right, we're 35 minutes to kickoff here in the Miller Lite West Plaza of AT&T Stadium. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team. Let's go into the owner's box with Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales, standing by with the owner and general manager of your Dallas Cowboys, Mr. Jerry Jones.
Well, we are right here at the 50-yard line with Jerry Jones. And, Jerry, much lighter in the wallet today after the extension for Tyler Smith and his big signing bonus and securing him to that 4-year extension. Why was it so important to get him locked up?
Well, first of all, we think Tyler is the best, certainly one of the best young offensive linemen there are in football. We've had such success with having really outstanding, great players, if you will, that pave the way, protect, or open those holes for our offensive side of the ball. So he was a must. Never any doubt in my mind that we wanted and should get him to an extension. He's been everything that we hoped he'd be when we drafted him and more. His entire future is ahead of him, which is a big plus. The other thing that we've got some real talent on our roster. And the way it works, obviously, is that when they are talented and they come up, then they really receive a lot of money. You can't keep all of those under our system. You can't keep all of those players. So you have to make some decisions. One of the things that I pride myself in, even though I'm criticized for dragging a negotiation out, is that you need to see the wreck when it's coming, or you need to see the event when it's coming. And so we could readily see, as a matter of fact, we thought through all consequences when we signed Dak Prescott. When we signed Dak Prescott, we knew that we were going to have to be very judicious as we go forward to put the kind of roster around Prescott that gives us a chance to win the Super Bowl. We really made the decisions we're making today last year when we signed Dak, so that we could get ready for this run that we hope eventually ends up in a Super Bowl.
One of the players that you had made a commitment to like that a couple of years ago was Trayvon Diggs at cornerback, and then had the injury last year, but able to play, I believe it was 27 snaps last week. Were you surprised that he was able to do that much and play as well as he did coming off of that knee surgery back in January?
Yeah, for the first game coming out after that surgery, I was real pleased with the snaps he got. And, of course, we had hoped that he could be at that point when the season started, so we're grateful for that. We hated about Bland, and so that was kind of a setback there not to have him out here today. I don't mean to get ahead of you, but a point that I was making during the Michael Parsons negotiation is that when we really start looking and evaluating where to put our resources, you've got to realize that so often they're not on the field, because we play a game, especially if you play positions that have, let's put it like this, they're off the ball contact. You're going to have a lot of time when they're down. And so you really do have to, without being anything, this is the game calls for you to know that the guys are going to get hurt. They're not going to always be out there. You have to factor that in when you're thinking about extending and contracts. The offensive line, where we just made this call, is one that has a good record of playing with the injury factor, getting a lot of snaps.
One more question, and it is an injury factor. Can you update us on Deron Bland? He hurt his foot in practice on Monday, but his status hopefully back in a couple weeks, or what's the timetable?
My thoughts, and it's just that, we all know where the pedal hits the metal is with the doctors or with the trainer. But I look at it and hope for this week and possibly next out and maybe get him back.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jerry. That's the view from the owner's box as we continue counting down to Giants-Cowboys kickoff. Let's rejoin Eric and Bryan.
Thank you, Christy. The owner's box today brought to you by Yeti, the official cooler of the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. Now we get to know the enemy, brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys, and Broaddus. Giants running backs failed to gain yardage on a league-high 47% of their runs last week versus the Commanders. The league rate was 22%. So they were, as bad as it gets when it comes to trying to run the football. And the Cowboys' run defense last week, I think, surprised all of us.
Better. It was better after the break, the weather break.
Yes.
I think there were some things that when you looked at maybe Saquon Barkley, you were worried about the Eagles, but unfortunately though, Jalen Hurts was, he got the yards that he did. And again, it's about discipline, it's about lane integrity, about gap integrity, it's about all these things that when you start to talk about run defense and how you need to play it, that's going to be key today. The Giants can't just get into a game today where they're just going to throw the ball every snap. They can't do that. They've got to find a way, because the one thing that they've shown for sure is that they can't protect. And so if this turns into, and the Dallas's offense will have a lot to do with this today too. If Dallas's offense is able to take, like they did in the Eagles game, where all of a sudden they're up, they score 17 points.
Coming out hot,
score 21 points, that will put a lot of pressure. That's, I think, how the Dallas Cowboys are going to win games this year. Dallas's offense is going to have to put people in that mode of not being able to run the football. But, the Giants just do not block well. They don't combo block. They don't get guys up on the second level. They lose a lot of games where it's power. They lose games where it's movement. So, this is going to be very, very difficult for them today. But if they come out and do have success, then, hang on to your rear. That's going to be tough. If Dallas doesn't make the Giants one-dimensional where they can attack them throwing the football, then, the Giants will have a chance in this one.
We're under 30 minutes to kick off here at AT&T Stadium, Week 2 with the Giants in town. Let's go inside the booth with Babe Laufenberg, and we'll get the keys to the game from Christy Scales. That's all coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
At Batteries Plus, we don't just sell batteries, we recycle them too. So don't toss your old ones. They're packed with critical materials we can reuse.
All right, we're 20 minutes away from a Week 2 Cowboys kickoff here at AT&T Stadium. Great to have you in the official pregame show of your Dallas Cowboys. We're live on the Miller Lite West Plaza, and it's time to go inside of AT&T Stadium, inside the booth with Babe Laufenberg, brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Babe, happy game day, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be home, although it wasn't really good to be home for the Cowboys last year. They went 2-5 here, but hopefully they turn it around today.
No question about it. They looked good last week, but everybody's kind of giving a pat on the back. I've heard the terms moral victory getting tossed around a little bit, Babe. How does that sit with you?
Yeah, that's funny because I always wonder, and Brian's been in locker rooms and front office staffs and all that, I don't think any coach has ever said to his team, like, hey, that was a moral victory. Yeah. And I don't think any player ever said, hey, guys, we lost, but yeah, that was a moral victory. Now, I will say there have been some immoral losses, right, where you're like, how did that happen? But I look at it this way in that first week. You went to Philadelphia, they're unveiling the Super Bowl banner, and you just went literally toe-to-toe with the defending Super Bowl champs. So it lets you know, in my mind, you can play with the top teams in the league, at least for that one night. You had the ball with 2:30 left in the game, and the chance to go down and win that football game. Now, they didn't get it done, but again, I took a lot of positives from that game, as I think they did as well.
Hey, Babe, when you look at the path, though, for the Giants today, do you expect them to come out to try and run it, or with the Cowboys secondary throw it? And I know they struggle with both.
Well, they struggled, as you know, pass protecting last week against Washington. Right. Russell Wilson never had a chance. I mean, you look at the numbers or you just see the highlights or whatnot, and you say, wow, he sucks. It's like, no, he never had a chance to throw that football. But I do think, if I'm going to attack this Cowboys defense, Reddy Stewart basically playing his first NFL football. He's been active for a couple games, but he's going to be starting in the slot, and I'm going to go see if he can play.
Sure.
So to me, I see him throwing the ball. I also see them getting Malik Neighbors involved early. We know he's temperamental. If he doesn't get the ball, then he and Dable getting into a fight last week on the sideline, and just try to get him a screen, a smoke screen, something to get Neighbors in the game early so you keep his head in the game.
Babe, it hasn't gotten that testy, but would you like to see the Cowboys offense get a little bit more George Pickens involvement early on in the game?
Yeah, I think the same thing as Neighbors, other than Pickens was not an issue last week. Right. He didn't get the ball. But I do see the Cowboys kind of doing that same thing. You get him a hitch, you get him a little smoke screen. Somehow you get him the football in that first series, your first 10 scripted plays. You have one scripted for George Pickens.
Babe, how impressed were you with Dak Prescott's performance last week, and what do you make of just the offense in general? Because they came out pretty hot last week.
Yeah, I think they threw the ball down the field more than we have seen. They took 3 shots down the field, 2 to Ferguson, 1 to Span Ford. They took the deep ball to Pickens that ultimately drew the pass interference call. So the ball went down the field. I just thought there were some balls, Dak, the ball placement wasn't exactly where he wanted it. That happens. But I just thought he looked really comfortable. Just looked comfortable in the pocket. And that's kind of what you're looking for out of that first game.
Babe, I really do appreciate your breakdown of the route between Tolbert and then Lamb. Is that something you just, first game kind of things happen that way?
Well, I hate to say this, but, you don't expect that from one of the top receivers in the league, because he really screwed the route up. Ultimately, he ended up dropping the ball.
Sure did.
And for those people that don't, if you go to @Babe Laufenberg, it's on my Twitter, and you can kind of look at what we're talking about. But that was the route, Brian, to me, was more disappointing than the drop. I know the drop was the end result. He shouldn't have been in there. You're screwing up the whole play. Yeah. And that was, again, disappointing for a guy that's been around this long.
Babe, you're the man. We appreciate the time. Enjoy the game. We'll be listening.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. There he goes, Babe Laufenberg, right here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Now it's time for Christy Scales' Keys to the Game, brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. And Christy, inching closer to kickoff here. What do you know?
Well, I think in keys to the game for the defense, the rush lane discipline is what they're looking for today. It has to improve this week because last week lost some of that integrity, and Jalen Hurts was able to hurt him with his legs running out of the backfield, and Russell Wilson was the leading rusher for the Giants last week against the Commanders, mainly running for his life. But try and keep those rush lanes, maintain the integrity there. Also, one thing for the defense, they didn't have the takeaways any last week, and that's such a thing, a point of emphasis every week. So they want to see that happen, but also third downs. They weren't able to get off on the field on third downs last week, allowed 8 of 13 conversions, like over second worst in the league. So see if you can get them off the field on third downs. Offensively, the run game, Brian Schottenheimer talked about wanting to pop a few more explosives. So not only obviously helps you set up long plays, better scoring opportunities, but can flip the field. And he really liked the physicality of the offensive line in week 1, and because they play with urgency, that's the word that he likes to use to describe the offensive line, competitive and playing with urgency. So continue that this week as we saw in week 1. And then finally, I agree with what you were talking about with Babe, more targets to George Pickens. They had Paulson Adebo, their top cornerback, follow Terry McLaurin, the top receiver for the Commanders last week. Be interesting to see if they take that tact today, have Adebo travel, and will it be with CD or with Pickens? So a lot of fun things to watch matchup-wise today.
Christy, you walked us through all the stuff with the secondary and the corners. How do you expect that group to play today?
Yeah, we'll expect that Kyer Elam and Trayvon Diggs will start. They'll be on the outside, and filling in for Deron Bland playing the slot. It's going to be Reddy Stewart, who was claimed 2.5 weeks ago off of waivers from Minnesota. Trayvon will play more than he did last week. He was limited to 27 snaps, playing situationally in nickel. But he's going to play more than that, but it's not reasonable to expect 60 to 65 plays that you would normally have in a game. So another guy picked up off of waivers from the Chargers. It's Triquez Bridges. You might see Bridges get some work on the outside for Trayvon Diggs today.
Christy, you're the best. Thanks for the time. Enjoy the game. We'll be listening.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. There she goes, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales here on the pregame show. Broaddus, it is now prediction time. Give me Cowboys 30, Giants 17.
Cowboys 24, Giants 16. I think we're going to see Jackson Dart. He's going to give a little life to this Giant team in the second half.
I love it. All right, we'll be watching for it. That'll do it for us here on the pregame show. Kickoff is around the corner with Brad, Babe, and Christy. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.